Hello everyone, my name's Sloan and welcome to my 1930s storybook home. Wait, how'd you get in here? That's more like it. You can't just barge into people's houses, Van. Come on in. My husband and I bought this home around 4 years ago and it's our first home, so obviously it's very special to us. We're standing in the front entryway next to our beautiful, almost 100-year-old front door. One of the things I love about this house and that really made us excited to buy it was that it has a lot of original features, including the original hardware from when this house was built 100 years ago. And one of my husband's first projects really was taking this beautiful door handle off and stripping the paint off of it that had been caked on over many years. The front entrance also has two beautiful arches, both one going into our entryway closet as well as one right here, looking into our tiny little hallway entryway, but it's very cute with the arches. A lot of houses that we looked at when we were looking for homes actually didn't have any kind of front entryway or closet at all. So even though this hallway is really small, we loved it. It was a big selling point for us. It also has the original tile, which probably isn't a tile that most people would choose to put in their home nowadays. It's very purple, but I love it. And I think it adds so much character to our house and really fits in the color scheme that we have everywhere else. We're moving 1,000 miles across the country to Texas, so we're actually selling this home. And if we had stayed longer, I really wanted to turn this hallway into something super cute. I probably would have wallpapered the arch behind me and made it just a big focal point for when you walk in, but hopefully the next owners will love this hallway as much as we do. The entryway takes us straight into our living room, which is probably one of the darkest rooms in the house, which is totally fine by us. It's nice to have a really cozy living room. And one of the things we love about this living room is that it's huge for an old house and very open with the dining room as well. Lots of room for activities. It also has a really beautiful, real brick, not painted fireplace with a gorgeous, beautiful wooden mantle. We really like mid-century modern furniture and I think it goes really well with the style of the home. It's obviously not period correct to the 1930s, but I think it adds a really nice juxtaposition. This is a vintage mid-century modern piece that we got from a local store, and I would say we have about half and half true mid-century pieces versus remakes, like our Floyd couch is kind of close to a mid-century style, but it's brand new. We have a lot of books, and so we've treated this space as our library of sorts. There's no TV, it's a reading room, a sitting room, a place to congregate with your friends and family that visit. We've decorated with a lot of pieces that are really personal to us, like souvenirs from trips to Italy, handmade gifts from friends, and wedding gifts of our own, as well as wedding gifts that my parents have given us from their wedding. This room boasts 3 different arches. One of them is huge and the other 2 are a bit smaller. I have loved being able to decorate the huge arch for Christmas by putting Christmas presents lining the whole thing. That's such a great memory of mine. I came home from work in July 2022 to see a little mini Christmas tree set up with a bunch of mini Christmas presents all around it. And that was how Brian proposed to me. I love Christmas and it was so special to open each present each day. That's how he did it, wondering whether there would be a ring at the end. And I fully convinced myself that there was not. It should have been obvious to me that he was proposing, but I really psyched myself out, which honestly was probably for the best. It was a good surprise. And that Christmas tree was set up right behind me on a different end table. This is actually a bar cart that we used at our wedding, but this living room is so special to me. And I will always hold the memory of Brian proposing here in my heart for the rest of my life. I keep telling Brian that we have the most beautiful house ever, and he keeps saying, soon it will be the second most beautiful house ever, meaning that our house in Texas will be even better than this one. And something that I've really tried to hold with me is that it doesn't matter where you live, it's the people that live inside of it with you that make it special. So I'm trying to remember that we are going to create lots and lots of very special memories in our new house as well. One thing we loved about the dining room is how open it is to the living room via this huge archway I was showing you previously. It's a little bit of modern open concept mixed with the old feel of the house. A lot of homes around this era have these cute little cutouts, and for years I didn't know what this cutout was. I've since learned that it was a place for phones to go. So I like to imagine almost 100 years ago, someone sitting in what's now the dining room, who knows what it was then, chat on their phone with their friends. Leaving your first house is hard, and one of the things that makes it really difficult is all of the memories that Brian and I have made in this house. Not only did he propose to me in the living room, we also decided to do our wedding vows privately at home the morning of our wedding at this kitchen table in this room. It's something that I'm gonna remember forever, and I've definitely had moments of tears thinking about leaving this house, especially with how beautiful those memories are. But it helps to think about all of the people that have lived here over the past 100 years, all of the different memories that have been made. I'm sure that Brian and I are not the first people to get married while living in this house. I'm sure some people have brought their first baby home to this house. And that's something that I hold with me as a beautiful thing as we go to sell it to someone else. There are many reasons we bought this house, but another huge selling point is the original hardware on the rest of the doors other than the front door. They all have these beautiful crystal-y glass knobs, as well as kind of an Art Deco style plate. And as much as I wish that I could take these with me and bring them to my next house, I'm not, because it's very important to me that they stay with the home. I'm hoping that regardless what our next house looks like, we can get some really cool hardware, because touching these every single day, you touch your doorknobs a lot. It's really nice to have ones that you really appreciate. We haven't made it to the kitchen yet, but our kitchen is not big. It is bigger than a lot of the other kitchens we looked at, and so we've been very happy with it for the past few years. But one way in which to make the kitchen feel a little bigger is by bringing our appliances, our most used appliances, out of the kitchen and onto our coffee bar. We also store a lot of our mugs in here, as well as syrups and other various things. Our dining room also has actual wood trim on the windows, which we love. Most of the trim in this house has been painted white. Only a couple windows have the original stain. This is a gorgeous window. Our kitchen is basically a hallway that goes down to the basement and outside, which is not uncommon in this area. But what we loved about it is that it's a galley kitchen, but there's also counter space on the back wall. So it's not a true galley. It's not truly just a hallway. It's got that little L in the back. This was the first room that we painted in the house when we first moved in, and it's also the first room I ever painted by myself. It's not the best painted room in the house, but I think I did a pretty good job, and it was previously painted like kind of a dark brown color, so it was just such a brown kitchen. I think this cute blue brings in some almost like 1930s original bathroom tile vibes, which I love, and just add some brightness to the space. We weren't planning on moving, and I had some big plans for this kitchen, and it's really sad to have to leave before we're able to make those plans happen. However, I'll show you guys here what I was going to do, and maybe that'll feel a little bit more satisfying. I would love to paint kitchen cabinets someday. I've watched so many people do it on YouTube. It looks like it would just be a really fun challenge. And so I was planning on painting these cabinets kind of a sage green, and that way we could keep the tile, keep the kitchen counters until we were ready to replace them and work within that color scheme. Here's an example of the color scheme that I would have gone for. This is also the first house I've ever lived in that has a gas stove, and it's been really fun to learn how to use it and to learn how to appreciate it. Definitely a lot harder to clean, but I really like cooking on a gas stove. One other selling point of this house is this room behind me. It's basically a teeny little mudroom with no space to put shoes or anything like that, but there is kind of a pantry in here, and this was such a challenge for me to paint that I actually only painted it like a couple of months ago once we realized we were moving. The ceiling's really high and angled, but it's so much brighter now that it's bright blue instead of a gross brown. Before we leave the kitchen, I want to be so honest and show you this extension cord. This goes from our grounded outlet here in the kitchen over to the coffee bar. And if you buy an old house, you know that a lot of outlets are going to be old. We got around to replacing quite a few of them, but never got around to replacing this one, which is just a little silly. The dining room leads into our sunroom, which is probably my favorite room in the house. I clearly love houseplants, and this room, as well as the rest of our house, honestly, gets so much light, which I will never take for granted. A lot of new builds don't have any windows on the sides, so I'm very thankful that This house has windows on every single side of the house, and honestly, we have more windows than we do wall space on the south side. In 2021, we were pretty sure we needed a new roof, and so we reached out to our insurance company who came out, and sure enough, not only were we approved for a new roof, we were approved for new siding on this sunroom, new gutters, new window wraps, and new everything in the garage as well. At the time, this room felt a little cold. It was my main office area, and I thought it was the perfect time to see if maybe we could reframe a door or something. Maybe that would help warm it up. So I call my dad and my grandpa on a Tuesday night, and the next thing I know, we are ripping the siding off of this thing. That turned into a huge project. We ended up almost completely gutting this room, scraping the popcorn ceilings, removing the trap door to upstairs, learning how to patch drywall, we'd never done that, replacing the outlets, and we weren't planning on getting new windows, but after taking the windows out and in and out and in for various projects, they were not in good shape, so we ended up getting brand new windows and a brand new back door. I also got the privilege of crawling around the crawl space under here, which can only be accessed once you rip the siding off and cut a hole in the wall, where we were able to move the ductwork to make the heating in here a little bit more efficient. And I also found a newspaper dated from the time that Amelia Earhart was lost, which was one of the coolest things we found. Probably actually the coolest thing that we found that was historical while living here. This room was by far the biggest transformation in this house, and one of the biggest problems was that it just didn't match the rest of the house. This was the only room on this floor that had popcorn ceilings, and none of the trim matched what was on the rest of the floor. One of my favorite upgrades we made to this room, if not my absolute favorite, was that my dad built custom trim that matches the original almost 100-year-old trim in the rest of the house, and it just does so much more than what was here before. My husband and I also stripped the paint off of this brick wall to reveal the actual bricks underneath. Oh my gosh, we will never be doing that again. That was such a hard project, but I'm really glad we did it. We learned so much. We also stripped the paint off of these French doors, and now we have beautiful wooden French doors leading into our bedroom. Almost all of the work that was done in this room was done by myself, my husband, or our close friends and family, which makes leaving it even harder. I don't think it's talked enough how hard it is to leave your first home, or any home in which you have such beautiful memories. And we're not done yet, but in making this video, I not only wanted to show you my beautiful home that we put so much work and love into over these past few years, but also normalize how sad it is to leave. I have so many mixed feelings. We have this brand new opportunity to move to Austin, Texas, and an opportunity to get a beautiful home there. And I know that Brian and I will make beautiful memories there as well. But it's so hard to leave all of the memories of this house and this area. We love this neighborhood. Our neighbors are amazing. But life is about taking chances and taking risks. And I know it will be a good move. It's just hard. No one had painted our bedroom for at least 10 years. It was previously a really light shade of blue. I painted it a little bit of a darker, more cool shade of blue, which made our bedroom darker. And that's one thing that I love, is having a cozy, dark bedroom to sleep in at night. We also made a lot of practical updates to this house, including curtain rods. Previously, this curtain rod was attached to the door or the trim. We had to fill so many holes. Now it's set up so the curtains are all on this side, meaning that you can open both French doors wide open and they don't get in the way of the wall or the door itself. The previous owners had really tall furniture in here, and this is a small room. It's not a big house. Primary bedroom is not big. And one of the ways we made it feel bigger is by keeping it a queen size bed, not a king, and keeping all of the furniture low to the ground. When we bought this house, Brian and I didn't have a lot of money and we didn't have a lot of furniture. So we lived for a while without having any dressers, nightstands, a nice bed frame, until we saw this bedroom set for sale at a local mid-century modern store. I'll never forget borrowing my dad's truck and going in the middle of February when it was freezing to pick up all of the furniture, try to shove it into my dad's truck, and me driving home white knuckled because I hadn't driven my dad's truck before. I didn't want anything to happen to it until we made it home. We've loved how this bedroom set has looked in our home while we've been living here. My biggest non-negotiable when buying our first house was that I wanted 2 bathrooms. Our house is listed as having 2 bathrooms on Zillow, but you'll see later. This hallway of a bathroom that I can barely fit my camera tripod in is really the only bathroom, but it has some amazing features, including this arch above the shower. It also has a medicine cabinet, which is great to have for storage in such a tiny space. It also has our only other window with wood trim, which frankly has made me so spoiled. I love having a bathroom with a window now. It also has a beautiful, what I believe to be original, or at least a super cool vent, and I love that the baseboards are tile as well. I've never lived in a home that has tile baseboards in a bathroom. For someone whose main non-negotiable for buying a house was that it had to have 2 bathrooms, I am really going to miss sharing this bathroom. I know that functionally, our next home having multiple bathrooms is really going to be great for us, but I've definitely been romanticizing having to squeeze past each other to be able to get ready for bed at night and share this space. Even though in reality, it's not very fun, I can look back and romanticize it for sure. This is the hallway that leads from the living room into our primary bedroom with a closet, as well as our bathroom and the next bedroom. And this feels like a good time to talk about plaster walls. Most of our main living area has plaster walls with a lot of texture on them, which definitely made it hard to paint. But one thing we loved about our plaster walls is that they block so much sound. Our house is small, but it does feel private. That's good and bad. We can't yell across the house at each other for anything. No, hey Brian, can you grab me a glass of water? He's not gonna hear it. Plaster walls are also safer in the instance of a fire. It's a lot harder to burn through thick plaster and lath walls than it is to burn through drywall. Why don't we still make houses out of plaster, you ask? Great question. It's expensive, and I think a lot of people find it annoying. It's hard to change, it's hard to cut into your wall if you need to get access to anything behind it, and drilling things in can be really annoying. I love living in a house with plaster walls though. Hardwood floors are one of the best things you can put in a house because they last forever. These floors are almost 100 years old and they still look amazing. Yeah, there are a few areas that could use refinishing, but that's the other beautiful thing about hardwood floors. All you have to do is sand them down, stain them, and they look good as new. As long as you don't sand them too much or too many times, they can last hundreds of years. Both of our hallways also have original light fixtures, which are kind of hard to see in the dark, but I think they're super cool. The bedroom at the end of the hallway is used as Brian's office, and one of the sad things about filming this when we're moving is that everything is staged for people to come look at our house. So you'll notice it's not super lived in. This room probably feels the most different than the other rooms. So many things have been put away, it's so sad. I haven't spent a lot of time in this room. It's not my office, but it again has beautiful windows and lots of books. Brian also stripped the paint off of this door and stained it, and it looks gorgeous. Solid wood doors also really help with the sound masking and helping keep our house feel pretty private room to room. Hear that squeak? I've gotten so used to squeaky wooden floors over the years. Old house things. Upstairs is our 3rd bedroom and our only carpeted space. This door is magnetic. When we first toured this house, we were so confused by this door, but you just pull. I'm trying to show you the great things and the quirky things about this house. And one of the most quirky things, in my opinion, is that coming up the stairway, there's carpet on the walls. Long term, we definitely had plans to rip the carpet completely out from upstairs, including the walls. We didn't end up having time for it, but it's been a great space up here regardless. When we bought this house, it was clear that it had not been freshly painted in so many years, and I've since found out that upstairs had not been painted in at least a decade. It had been painted a dark gray that only went up to about here on the walls, which made it feel so much smaller, and no one had caulked the baseboards or filled in holes in the walls in quite some time. I know it looks better up here now, but it doesn't even do it justice. It took me so long to work up here, and it looks 1,000 times better. We've been hanging out in kind of the hallway area up until what is technically the 3rd bedroom, and you can see that the walls are angled quite a bit. Up here used to be an attic, and that's why the ceilings look like this. But we looked at so many homes that had converted attic spaces that I would hit my head in, and I'm 5'2". So my husband, who's almost a foot taller than me, would really hit his head. The tall ceilings up here were one of the things we loved about this house, and still do. That hallway space leads into our 3rd bedroom, but we use it as a TV space. We have another Floyd couch up here, but this one we got on Facebook Marketplace for a steal, as well as some really cool vintage speakers that I got from my dad. This space is huge. It's been the perfect area for us to come upstairs to watch TV. And if we had stayed, I absolutely would have scraped these popcorn ceilings as well, and switched out the dreaded boob light. If you know, you know. Like I said, I wanted this home tour to be a realistic depiction of what our house looks like, the good, the bad, and the ugly, although it is pretty clean for home showings. That being said, I want to show you what the basement of a 1930s home looks like. Let's go. The first room you enter is this huge room, which definitely did not look this good when we bought the house. We added waterproofing along the entire exterior perimeter of our home, which is not only good for the house and good for keeping water out of your basement, it also really brightens it up. I also wanted to be able to use this space as a workout space, so we added blue foam padding flooring, as well as hanging lights to brighten it up. The least beautiful room in our basement is our storage and furnace room. But how lucky am I to have a room with this much storage? We don't have a lot of closet space, considering this is an almost 100-year-old home. That's very common for older homes, so we keep all our extra food, toilet paper, paper towels, etc. down here. Another thing we loved about this house was how it's not a dingy basement. Yeah, it's not the most beautiful basement, but we looked at some houses that had dirt floor basements, or where the foundation was caving in on itself, or where the ceilings were so low that my husband was hitting his head. I love that the ceilings in here are wooden, they have not been painted, and they're so tall for a basement, for my standards. Also, can you believe how big this basement is? We loved the idea that we could potentially finish this space, which we never got around to, but we took some great steps towards being able to do that, like waterproofing the walls. This huge room is our laundry room, and you can see how bright it is. I do have a couple of lights on. However, this massive room has 3 small south-facing windows, which get so much light, and is just another thing I love about this basement. This wouldn't be a whole home tour if I didn't show you my 2nd bathroom. Here in the basement, we have a shower as well as a gross toilet. I will spare you having to look at that. So while having 2 bathrooms was a non-negotiable to me, by the time that we realized this house didn't have a real 2nd bathroom, we had already fallen in love. We bought our house at the end of 2020, so if you know anything about the market then, it was crazy. This was the 31st house we looked at, and so many houses were being snatched up the day they were listed. I had a gut feeling that this house was the one for us, even though it didn't even hit my non-negotiable. So we put in an offer, and it's been a better place to live than I ever could have imagined, and we've learned so much through living here. And it's nice to have an emergency bathroom, is what we call the one down here. Outside of our sunroom is where arguably the biggest transformation happened, with a new back door, windows, siding, and a beautifully painted deck. If you subscribe to my channel, you know that my yard also has a beautiful garden, as well as a big landscaped area that I landscaped to match my wedding flowers. So you can imagine how hard it is to leave this house. The main reason why it's difficult to leave this house is because of all the memories that are associated with. This is the house that we brought our dog Poplar home to, and we have so many beautiful memories here. Because of that, even though I know that it's hard to leave this house, I know that we're going to make beautiful memories in our next one, and that makes it feel a little bit easier. I hope you've enjoyed watching this video. I've really enjoyed making it, and it feels like a really great way to say goodbye. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe so you can see my new house in Texas, and thank you so much for watching the video. It's very bittersweet to be leaving, and I know that this video will be a great way to remember my first home. See you in the next one.